Hello, and welcome back to Raised by Giants, where we talk all things spirituality. I'm Ryder Lee. Today's guest is Dollie Indigostar. She is a host, speaker, independent researcher of ancient and hidden technology, astronomy theorist, public speaker, author, researcher, director, and film documentary producer. She hosts a radio show once a week on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network and has a section on Billy Carson's Forbidden Knowledge TV, where she presents many subjects with connections to our ancient ancestors, boots on the ground type of series, getting deeper into the matrix called Raw Talk Sessions. Hello and welcome to the show, Dollie. How are you?
Hey, Ryder. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. And thanks for coming on my show. So we're going to get into some different subjects here, and like your bio stated tonight, and kind of dive deep into the matrix with some awesome topics here that I think a lot of us are interested in. You know, ancient hidden history, the Anunnaki, ancient technologies. But first, let's get a little background on you and your spiritual awakening and what got you started going down this path of researching ancient and hidden history.
Well, I guess I've been researching all my life, really. I began very humble beginnings in a working class family from the very heart of the middle of England, called the Midlands. And I grew up there, but always knew that I felt a little bit different to everybody else. I would be able to use my senses and my six senses. And I was very intuitive and spiritual. And I visited a lot of churches and places like that and took religious education actually at school for my exams. And it always fascinated me from an early age, religion, spirituality, God, who we were, where we come from. And I guess it started from the very, very beginning. But I also had very strange, bizarre encounters now and again that I now know were otherworldly, as in being visited by beings that some have described them as greys. I've seen greys. I've seen other beings that I've called plasma beings. And I guess I just kind of did a research into everything that I had experienced all my life, really, over a series of from dot. I was just very inquisitive and wanted to know what was happening to me. So I began to research and started a few Facebook pages, began to make links and talk with people, and took it from there, really. And met up with a few other experiencers and shared stories and didn't feel uncomfortable about what I had experienced. And then I began to search for ancient civilizations and uh, find out more of who we are and where we are in the cosmos.
Now, you said that you were visited by these beings, which is weird because I had a very similar experience whenever I was a kid. So, were these beings you encountered physical or non corporeal or translucent? What were they like?
They were physical beings, but when I was very small, I must have blocked them out because I was too small to kind of remember what I remember snippets. I remember people searching for me in blocks of flats and couldn't find me, but I was always asleep. All these things were half and half, awake and asleep. And I would actually physically go missing in my home, and some of the beings that I have seen were very physical.
That's interesting because whenever I was a kid, I would be laying in my parents' bed, and these beings would come out of the walls, right? Like they were translucent, non-corporeal, ethereal types of beings, and they would kind of surround me like every night. But later on, whenever I remembered this, because it was a while. It wasn't until I was like 20 years old that I even remembered that it happened, and I shared that experience with some of my friends and things, and people that were in the know, and they kind of suggested to me that was kind of like a gray type of experience, like a gray ET type of experience.
It sounds very much so. I've heard other people's stories, witnesses' stories, and I've heard similar stories of translucent, grayish in color, coming through walls, the ability to even move people through walls. And they also have this amazing technology where they are able to screen the room that you are in. They can screen a scenario. So if, for instance, they wanted to make you feel more comfortable about your surroundings, they could look in and see what makes you comfortable and create that surroundings around you for your compliance.
Right, projecting a certain
Mm.
kind of reality
Yes, exactly.
that could even induce fear, or it could induce
Yes,
love. It could
exactly. Yes.
would do
Yes.
whatever they wanted to do.
Yes. A lot of people have described as having ET interactions that have crossed over with religious experiences, such as seeing Jesus or Mary or another religious figure, or a family relative that has passed over, that appears to them and asks them to go with them. This is quite often mentioned in ET experiences.
Yeah, and it was weird because it wasn't like I wasn't really in fear. I mean, I was in fear because I didn't know what it was, but I don't believe that from what I can remember, they didn't like touch me or hurt me or harm me or anything. They just kind of like observed. But like you said, it could have been like a projected thing, and something
Mm,
different, completely different was going on.
exactly. They can literally project. So when I was small, apparently so, I remembered in a regression that I'd had from this experience of an open window on a ninth story of an apartment building. And in my experience, in my regression, I saw a dragon come through my window, which is a clear example of a projected fear. But I wasn't scared of this dragon, and it changed into a tiny little grey being. And I remember
Mm.
going off with it. So I must have um, broke something into something in my subconscious through that regressional session that I had, and I remembered what I had seen.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Did anyone see any of these beings other than you? Anybody else with you? Your parents or maybe a relative or anything?
Not at that time, but later on in my adult years, as I grew older, yes, there had been witnesses. I've had relatives and family members that have stayed with me that have had strange experiences and witnessed interactions. One, for instance, I had a large ball of blue light that shot directly through my house, and it literally blew all the electrics, fused my TV and washing machine, and fried my computer. It just shot through.
It's so interesting. I think that a lot of the ET experiences and paranormal experiences kind of go hand in hand. You know,
Mm.
they're more connected than what people even realize, and one can be mistaken for the other.
Absolutely, yes. And I lived on a ley line, which is a perfect example. And while I lived there, I was having multiple experiences because there's literal portals that open and gateways, and there are pathways and gateways that open when you live near places like that. So if you live near a ley line, you're highly, if you're not in tune with it, more than likely you'll find out that things will always blow in your house and fuse, and objects or things will go wrong. It will either be a negative or a positive energy, because that's what energy is. It's neither one or the other. It's just how it's transmuted.
Right, and according to your perception is
Mm.
how it works. You know, you can perceive it as a negative, or you can perceive it as a positive. You know.
Absolutely. And we can also change that with our own metaphysical uh, alchemy by using it into something.
Yeah,
And yeah,
transmutation. Yeah.
yes, we can do that. And when you master that, you can do a lot of things to help not just yourself, but everything around you. It's important to, you know, when gifts are accessed and it's used for everything around you, because portals literally open.
Yes, I agree 100%. So let's get into some ancient and hidden history here, because recently, in the past 4 years, it's kind of become a mainstream thing, talking about, you know, fake news and stuff. But I think if the masses, public's minds would really be blown when they find out about fake history, right? Because if fake
Mm.
news is a thing, then what else have they done up until this point?
Exactly. And it's proven now all over the globe. We are uncovering um, structures that are baffling scientists and shaking the foundations of historians, because they can't work things out. They can't date the things that they're finding. They can't translate the information. Some of the things they can't read the texts, and there's no one to read the texts. It's kind of a mystery that's having to unravel piece by piece. But with the acceleration of technology, many of us are now connecting all over the globe, such as yourself, myself. We're all connecting. We're sharing these bits of information with each other, what we know, what we found out, which is part of why I do what I do. It's about sharing, because I want to know. I want to know our history and our past, and it's been through a big programming washed system for the last 2,000 years to make us purposely forget our true origins and history. Everything since that, the beginnings of time, has been passed down in oral traditions from generation to generation to keep the truth alive. And we do have ancient scriptures that have been manipulated and doctored and toyed with to make us think something entirely different to what we now know as a very old ancient civilization once walked the earth, that we're technologically advanced somehow.
Right, and like you said, I feel like our true history has been made a secret and has been hidden for a reason, right? So we don't know where we come from. We don't know who we are or what we're even doing here. I mean, if we could manage to trace back our history, we could attempt to figure it out, you know. I mean, we still can to a certain degree, but a lot of the ancient history has been destroyed, it's been eroded, or has went missing over time, or has not even been translating, just sitting in a Vatican library, you know, collecting dust. I mean, it's guesstimated that there are over a 500,000 or so cuneiform tablets or more just discovered in modern times, and that's just the ones that we know about.
That's right. There are literally hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tablets that haven't been translated because they can't translate them. They've got hundreds of thousands of tablets. They just cannot translate them. They haven't got the resources and the people to translate them quick enough because it takes such expertise and in-depth knowledge. It's like a needle in a haystack, each tablet that they're looking at, these ancient tablets, and there's thousands of them. So who knows what has yet to be delivered to humanity into our ancient hidden past. There's lots of things appearing all over the globe at the moment that are appearing by LiDAR. That is the magnetic, taking the sonar photographs, the raw images that are going across the earth. Amazing discoveries that they are uncovering right now. It's, you know, recently in Peru, they've uncovered more pyramids that need to be excavated, more temples. There's thousands of them that are just appearing. Who knows what is under them?
Yeah, and that makes me believe, and it should make anyone believe, that they're attempting to hide our history on purpose. Just like a lot of the monoliths and sacred sites in Iraq and Afghanistan were destroyed during the
Destroyed,
war on
yeah.
purpose, you know, and the museums were robbed of their precious ancient artifacts, which I contend is, you know, one of the reasons why we went to war in the first place.
Mm.
I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, some of the places that have been destroyed out there and the artifacts can never be replaced. And some people will say that, oh, well, the museums, they are stealing them all over the world from these places. And is it that they are stealing them, or is it that they are preserving them? You
well,
know, some libraries preserve, but you touched on the library earlier at the Vatican Library. Now, that one is of great interest because they hold the rest of the Library of Alexandria, which was half burnt down. So there's one half of that library that was apparently burnt to the ground.
yeah, then
And
there's also
all
the theory that a lot of the tablets and a lot of the books and a lot of the artifacts were actually transferred out of the Library of Alexandria before it was burnt. I don't know how much truth there is to that
yes,
theory, but
there's huge conspiracy theories surrounding that it was moved, transported, you know, hidden in secret locations, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But they know something because one thing the Vatican do recognize is an angelic kingdom. Now, that is important because they are accepting another realm.
Okay, so I want to kind of get back to the Iraq and Afghanistan thing, because I think my thoughts on it is that it could kind of stand to reason that they did have weapons of mass destruction, just not in the way we think of in modern times with nuclear weapons. I feel it could be more of like an ancient weapon of mass destruction. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dolly?
I think that there was a lot of things that happened in Iraq that we weren't told about. And it wasn't just the whole thing surrounding the war itself, it was the places that they were uncovering and keeping hidden. They were, chasing people out of their homelands for 2000 that had been there 2000 years, guarding places. And when you hear a story from the people's story versus the reasons to why and what they went in there looking for, we have to remember that most of these places were holy places that have been mentioned in the holy book. So I would think it was very, very much a more than just oil and resources and arguing about land. It was very, very ancient in origin. And who knows? I've heard Stargate stories. I've heard UFO stories and sightings. I've heard a lot of strange things that happened in Iraq. And will it be one of those things that in another 30 years or so that we will be released information of what really went on there?
Yeah, I mean, we know certain cataclysms have kind of happened in Earth's history. That's, been proven by Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock. So I'm thinking, could some of these events have been triggered by a certain ancient technology, and then that technology was broken and scattered across the planet, and some people or groups had pieces of it, and the US knew Iraq and Afghanistan and some of those other places that we went to war with had some of this technology, and the only way they could get it was to go to war with them.
Exactly. And, it's a little bit like the stories of World War II with Hitler. He went all over the planet looking for certain artifacts and certain objects of interest. And Antarctica is one of those places of interest.
Yeah.
So I do think that there is objects or such as perhaps technology. They know of an ancient technology perhaps that has been scattered or is in different places connected all over the globe. Because when we look at some of these ancient temples, bizarre. We've got pyramids all over the globe. Nobody really knows why or what they were built for. There's a million theories out there, and there's a million theories who built them and how they were built, but nobody really knows. But somewhere there has to be some history somewhere to it. There has to be a missing piece to it. So I think all these locations all over the globe do connect. Do they connect in one technology or a scattered technology?
Right, and like you mentioned, earlier, that Saddam Hussein was attempting to kind of open a Stargate. Of course, it's a theory, with some of this technology too, right? That could be another reason why we apparently had to go to war with them. But all theory and speculation. So let's let's get this. Let's start with the Anunnaki, and this might be an opinion question, but where did the Anunnaki come from, and who are they, to your knowledge, Dolly?
To my knowledge, from many people that I've worked with and spoke with, and my own understanding of what I've gathered from knowledge on my quest and searching for them, is that the Anunnaki are a collection of races within the cosmos that resided on one huge universal planet, if you like. They were all cosmically united on that planet. And we have leaders of that planet, royal families and leaderships, and these guys actually ruled other planets. We have Venus, one of the goddesses here, the Anunnaki, Ishtar, Isis, Inanna. Everything correlates back to the gods and goddesses. We have Osiris, we have Enki, we have Enlil, we have Marduk. All these names connect together, and Marduk was known as Ra, and he had a huge connection with Mars and the moon as well. He studied the moon in depth. He was fascinated, and there were apparently bases located on the moon and Mars as way stations for the gold that was mined on the earth and other resources that were transported back. From what can be understood by different scholars, a lot of people just refer to Zachariah Stitchin, and there's other people's works out there. Samuel Kramer, for instance, excellent works. I read a lot of his stuff, and when you look at all the connections of these planets and ruling leaderships and symbols, there's a lot of symbology and planetary symbology connections. They all kind of connect. So it connects to a star race or star races that connect out there to us. That is who I understand the Anunnaki as. Now, some of those ruling elite families are still here. Some of them are still here. Some of them opted to stay, and some of them opted to go. And part of that leadership that's on this planet right now is an Anunnaki reptilian rulership that is changing hands. And it is changing hands because we can see what's happening around us. Everybody has become aware to the reptilian agenda, and people are waking up that there's something going on the planet, and there's a change going on in the management. The whole planet is shifting in consciousness. We are raising it and meeting our next phase into apparently the golden age, where we will see a change and a different leadership.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to get through a lot of hardships and a lot of difficult scenarios and things before we get there. I believe anyway, because I think everything has to collapse in order for something new to be built. But I had a question.
Exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question about Marduk really quick, because you said that he was referred to as Ra. Do you think the ancient Egyptian sun god Amun Ra is just Marduk?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, these beings lived for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So humans didn't live that long. We only have 100-year lifespan if we're lucky. But these beings lived thousands of years. So they lived through timelines. So they would have been known by different names through that timeline and would have incarnated, and they can shift and time jump and shift there and incarnate.
Yeah, that
These
makes.
beings are highly, highly advanced. They can incarnate over and over again.
I mean, that makes sense. So, do you subscribe to the theory? Obviously, it's written in the cuneiform tablets that we were genetically engineered and modified and essentially created by these Anunnaki gods, or do you think that we were already here, like on like a lower hominid type of creature already, and they just came in and genetically altered us and changed our DNA to fit their specific need, or do you think that that we were already here, and, or do you think they made us from nothing, like from scratch, and they created us?
Well, there's already evidence of some kind of hominid being here through, but there's also evidence of a time jump, something happening with human history where we just turned into man, fully advanced. And it doesn't happen like that. It takes thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years for that to happen genetically. The features and the change and the mixing of so many races and cultures, and also equipment and education and knowledge and equipment and advanced knowledge and medical knowledge and farming, and it doesn't make sense. We went from virtually caveman to apparently building pyramids with advanced technologies and weapons and forts and kingdoms and kings. Something happened that intervened into the jump. So I do believe that we are a hybrid of some kind, and it's written there for us in black and white. If we do want to take the Bible, for instance, that many are now reading clearly through, it's there right at the beginning for us in black and white to see. God created man in his own image, so we look the same as him or her. So we're talking about a being that looks like you or me, because a man is still a man from the beginning. We haven't changed. So something intervened, and we've also had parts of our genetic abilities that we can and cannot access taken out. We've had strands of our DNA, what they call spliced, and taken out.
right, to give us some kind of jump start on the evolution. I mean, for people that don't think that we were genetically modified and genetically engineered, I mean, they're doing it to us now, with the food, the water,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
air, the pharmaceuticals, the vaccines, all of it, I contend, is to change us and modify our DNA to suit a specific need. Now, what that need
Mm.
is, I have no idea, but it's not a far stretch to believe we were genetically engineered physically by a higher intelligence. But here comes the age old question. We know who engineered us, which is written in the Sumerian cuneiform tablets, the Anunnaki. But who engineered them? Are there any
Yeah.
indications on who or what that might be in your research?
There is, because in my research, there's a part in the Lost Book of Enki that Enlil was visited by an emissary, and Enki was visited by an emissary, and they questioned who that was, and they were visited in dream state, and they took their dreams very seriously and visions, because the astral world to the Anunnaki were very important. It's another dimensional frequency, as we know. Today, we know that we can access another dimension through using astral projection, which is part of our inbuilt soul body, our light soul. So we were created with part of that within us. And Enki actually questioned and asked Enlil to ask Anu who this being was. Had he sent them from Nibiru to visit them to save the creation? And Anu said, absolutely not, I hadn't sent them. And he questioned whether it could be the old emissaries talked of in his ancient ancestors, because they themselves questioned.
That's
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, I hadn't heard that before. That's great information. I mean, I think we're all, hybrids to a certain degree, right? We could possibly, like you stated, could all be Anunnaki hybrids.
Absolutely. The whole planet, the whole human race is Anunnaki hybrid. Every race, every culture. We all have this Anunnaki DNA. It's like a mixture of everything. And because so many races have mixed now on the planet, we are a multicultural, seeded planet. And they take great interest in that.
Yeah, because it's kind of, we could be like an experiment, for them, and they could come and get whatever they want. If we're like a big dumping ground planet, where a lot of different races with a bunch of different kinds of DNA, they could come through and grab whoever they want, or grab whoever's DNA and take it wherever.
Yeah. And we've made it to the stars, you know? We're getting there. The race is on. We're heading to Mars. We're reaching for the stars. We've got a space force now. We've got the USA have a space force. Now the UK have our own space force. That's been launched. So we're heading out there into that space race, protecting our area in space. And it's a big place out there, you know?
Yeah,
So
and
I
hope.
think that they're on the frontier of this is it, this is disclosure. We've been going through it now for the last 10 years, right? Really going, this is it, it's there, it's there. They've drip fed that bit. But for the last 50 years, they've been drip feeding it even more slowly through movies and programming and technology.
Yeah, 100%. It's to get our subconscious already
Mm,
tuned to that, I believe, right? And for whenever the event actually happens or whenever disclosure really happens, it's already been planted in our subconscious. I think that that's the point of the slow drip type of
mm.
disclosure, and that goes with anything in our reality. It doesn't just have to be with disclosure. It could be for an agenda or whatever it is they're trying to pass off
Exactly.
a false flag or
Yeah, and
whatever they're
they've
trying
done
to do.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, they've done it for the last 2 or 3 years. The whole planet stopped. The whole planet has stopped, hasn't it?
Yep.
Sort of. And it is a new world that we're going into. We can say now that New World Order has definitely kicked in and stepped in because that old world that we lived in before has gone. We don't live in that world that we lived in 3 or 4 years ago. We live in a totally different one now, and it's going to keep changing. And they'll introduce eventually digital wallets. The monetary system will cease to function on the streets. It will go digital. Everything is going into, a lot of it is going into that AI world and technology advanced. And we've been slowly drip fed that too. Over the last 20 years, we have leaped so far forward in technologies. It's amazing.
And I think the difficult part about it is going to be deciphering what is actually good for us and what isn't, what is there to harm us and what is there to actually do good things, because I think a lot of the good things and where the overseers want to take us is going to look like it's not good for us. It's going to look
Mm.
like that dystopian kind of reality that we've been warned against, but really it's a part of the overseers, the positive consciousness and the positive timelines coming to fruition.
Mm. We have to transition. We have to begin to focus, on not each other, on what is trying to destroy each other. You know, it's not us as individuals, it's the whole system that is trying to destroy us as individuals. And we have to kind of take the focus and step a little bit out of the box here. And we really have to make a change and change things right around.
Yep, change in healing ourselves on an individual level also changes in the collective.
Absolutely.
So
Mm.
this isn't a
Because we
pin.
all want it as people. We're all craving the same thing. So it's not us. It's the actual system that's got to change it. And we can't do it unless it all completely just breaks down.
And that's
And
going to be
then we will
scary.
see change. And it's going to be scary. It's going to be scary for some,
Yeah.
but it's already began. It's already began. And we're now in this time of uncertainty, but we have to stop blaming each other and look at the actual guys that are behind this and stop them from destroying what we have, which is a beautiful planet. I live on a beautiful planet. I want to keep it that way for my children and their children. And I think we all want the same. And we kind of just have to stop fighting each other and who, who actually owns this planet. We're caretakers. We're here for a short time. We're caretakers. And we have to remember that.
Yeah, that's the biggest technique that the dark side controller, puppet masters, whatever you want to call them,
Mm,
use is making us the enemy, right? Making us fight with each other,
exactly.
and creating that divide between us so that we can't unite, distracting us with all of these illusionary things that they're constantly projecting out into the world and
Mm,
shoving down our throats and manipulating us and distracting us so that the real things that we should be focusing on are brushed under the rug.
absolutely. I 100% agree. And that's what they do. They cause a distraction because they don't want humanity to see what is really going on in the background. There's
100%.
there's there's huge major things going on globally, and half of the world doesn't hear about it. We just hear all the negative things or political things, which is media run and drip fed to us because it's programming. We never actually hear of the good things that are going on the globe and the positive things that are happening. We
Yep.
never hear, they never make, world news of the positive that people have done for humanity. Only very, very now and again do you hear of small stories of somebody's bought part of a rainforest and replanted it.
Yep, and it's
It's
normally
because
on the
media,
internet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's normally on the internet. And so we literally get censored. We're living in an age where we're censored, manipulated, and we have to work out and use our integrity and intuition
Mm.
and discernment and work out what is what, and not to blame each other because it's not us, it's the system that's going on around us that's triggering us and forcing us into these corners and catch 22s. Spiritual war. We're in a spiritual war. I've always said that World War III is a spiritual war
Yeah, a
that will
war.
eventually lead into the physical because it will begin to break down some way. We've seen, it's beginning from country to country where it's happening. The systems are breaking down.
Yep, and it's like you said, a spiritual war, and the spiritual war is the war on us. It's a war on information. It's a war on consciousness, right? And it's an attack on the individual's heart, right? Because our heart center is where we control a lot of our intuition, our spirituality, our connection to nature, our connection to others, right? So if they can take over our heart, not only our physical heart, but our energetic heart too, then the rest just kind of falls in line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at the moment, every person on the planet is confined to home, most of them. So they're either online or doing nothing in their home, suffering with mental health problems, issues, monetary problems.
Yep, and
That has been triggered, by, and it attacks the whole body, the spiritual, the physical, the mental, the whole well-being, a perpetrated attack on all of us, and it is a spiritual war, and we have to work through that battle, one by one, personally, from individual to individual, and just wake up and see what's going on.
Yes, and it's also a disconnection type of thing too. You know, if they can get us disconnected from each other and get us on a virtual means, right? Because
Mm,
we're connected right now virtually, right? But and we're using this medium to spread knowledge and wisdom and understanding and enlightenment, right? But there's nothing like being next to each other. You know, there's nothing like hugging someone. There's nothing like touching someone. There's nothing like shaking someone's hand. So if they can get us disconnected on that spiritual level, then again, everything starts to fall
mm,
into place and we can be easily manipulated and controlled from that
mm,
very low vibrational state.
absolutely. Disconnecting people from people. And like you said, being with someone and in front of someone is a whole different experience. And that has been taken away from us. So, we have lost that personal touch it's almost as though we're being programmed to not interact with each other on a personal level too much.
Yep, they want us all virtual.
Disconnect. Yeah, they want to disconnect our spiritual interaction. And it's the most natural thing in the world, isn't it? To hug someone or look into somebody's eyes when you're talking to them, when you meet them, and or hold hands or hug. We can't do that anymore. It's that personal awareness and space where our consciousness has now had to be on high alert, if you like. Our consciousness is expanding, but it's also on high alert. So we're
Yes.
questioning everything that's coming up now. We're literally questioning everything that's surfacing and coming out.
Yes, and unlocking your intuition and discernment is of most highest priority because it was like what we were talking about before we started this here tonight, Dolly,
Mm,
is that information overload is a real thing. You know, the
mm,
media throws so many stories, so many different things at you at one time, so you can't concentrate on anything and you can't decipher what's actually happening,
mm,
right? So unlocking your discernment, using your own intuition, and figuring out what resonates with you on a deep level, and then holding on to that and putting it in your pocket, and then remembering it for later, and disregarding the things that don't serve you, that you don't think works for you. You know, I think a lot of people they want to try and fight for what they believe, and they think that everyone should believe exactly the way that they believe, but that's not the way that reality works. And I think that that's what makes us so beautiful, is that we
mm,
all are our own individuals. We all have our own set of beliefs. It's just the acceptance of
mm,
that within somebody else is where we're going to ascend and transmute and get out of all of the negativity and everything that's been
mm.
surrounding the planet and surrounding us on an individual level for so long.
Exactly. And people have their own spiritual awakenings at different times in their life. And helping someone else to assist on their spiritual level. Once they've assisted themselves on their spiritual level, it has a knock-on effect from person to person as we unravel it. So as we unravel ourselves, we're unraveling the next person by sharing the information, by
Yes.
using what resonates with us
Mm.
and passing it on. And that's how it is passed on orally through person to person, because somebody else will pick up on this and listen and say, that resonates with me. I feel that way. Or if you don't need that information, that doesn't resonate with you, you leave that information. We have that choice. That's free will. And we do live in multiple realities. Even though we share one similar reality, the experience of that reality can be multiple from someone else's perspective. But in the same room, the same incident could happen, but there's a different reality going on in that room, two realities at the same time in the one experience. And this is what people have to remember, that when they're learning pieces of information or hearing pieces of information, discern that, take what you need from it, learn from it, or drop it. If it does not serve you a purpose, we leave it.
Yes.
That's usually how I work anyway.
Yeah, and I think that that's the best way to be, because it's like you said, it's ran on perception, and your beliefs and your truth cultivate your reality, right? Our thoughts create and project out onto our reality, and then our experiences of life cultivate and form our truth, right? So you have a different experience, Dolly. I have a different experience. Whoever is listening to this or watching this has had a different experience of life. So therefore, they are going to have a different truth, right? No one has a monopoly on truth. And I think when people really grasp onto that concept, a lot of the disharmonic things that's been happening to us on individual levels will kind of cease to exist. It will just be blown out of the water.
I like that. And be willing to grow. I love learning new things. I don't know about you, but every day I want to learn something new. And I think that's what it's about as well, being open to learning from each other and something new. And not knowing everything. It's that's the part I love. Somebody will say, do you know about this? And I'll be, no, I've never heard of that. Please tell me. And I love it because they know everything about it, but I know nothing. And that's the best part, is learning. And we have to grow with that learning. And I love it every day. I'm still growing every day.
Same, Dolly. That's part of the fun of it. Part of the fun of being in this reality. So I have one more question here for you before I let you go here today. So we know that the Bible was written based on all of the ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. The Epic of Gilgamesh closely resembles the story of Noah in the Bible. The Adrahasis resembling the book of Genesis. So my question is: are there any other tablets or stories that you feel the Bible is kind of based off of?
The Enumerish. It's based off the seven tablets of creation. Genesis, genes of Isis. I would read the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh. I would read those. And the Lost Book of Enki is a good one. That's a Zachariah Stitchin book. But I like that one because it's close to the same as the other translations. There's not much difference.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of the books of the Bible and everything are just interpretations of much older religions
Mm,
and much older stories, and it was all cultivated
mm,
based and changed and manipulated based on all of these
yes.
yeah.
I, yeah. I think once you read those and all those little stories, that story, each one, and you're connected. Oh, that sounds like the Jesus and Mary story, and that sounds like, hang on, that sounds like Osiris and Isis, and that sounds like, hang on a minute, that sounds like Thoth, or that sounds like Set and Horus. There seems to be a lot of correlating stories that, oh, that appears to be Noah, Zidusra, and that things have the same meaning, and how things are translated. Like people were known from, so Mary was known as the mother from Mary. Now, was it that her name was Mary, or was she from a place called Mary in Iraq, Mesopotamia? She, so we have a lot of names that mean the same thing. Do you know what I mean? They correlate together.
Yeah, it's kind of, you have to really decode
You
the Bible.
really have to decode and go
Yeah,
in, because a lot of the stories match the old Sumerian texts.
it's all connected. I believe on many different levels. It's not just one thing. Like just like in our reality, things just don't happen for one reason. It's a multi-layered uh, dip cake. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it's got all kinds of different things in there, and there's branches coming off, and there's branches upon those branches, and then before you know it, you're down
mm.
onto a completely different topic. It's like going down a
Mm.
what they
And
call a
that's
rabbit hole.
where layers come in, and then other things mean the same as other things, and then they've got the same meaning, and before you know it, people are confused.
Yep.
And then they've been translated into 100 different languages, and then they've moved up two timelines, and then their name changed from something else, but they became known as something else because that's the timeline that we're in now, and people will understand it that way. And it's just so confusing. But once you read through such texts as the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Atrahasis, the Enuma Elish, read through all these tales, the Book of Enoch, the Lost Book of Enoch as well, that's a good one, the Lost Book of Enki. Read through all of those, and they kind of create this amazing story. Sometimes I leap off the chair because I'll make a discovery and figure out something is something, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing once you figure out who is who.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people going back and reading those tablets, and like we stated several times, use your discernment and try and connect things, and connect the dots, and expand your mind and your consciousness. That's the most important key. But thank you so much, Dolly. I appreciate you coming on my show and sharing your knowledge and research with us. I had a wonderful, I feel like we had a great conversation. If people would like to contact you or look at your research, where can they do that?
Okay, I've got a YouTube channel. You can find me there, Dolly Indigostar. Or I've got a Raw Talk session that I show on forbiddenknowledge.com. And that is Forbidden Knowledge TV. We have a conscious TV channel, which is packed full of conscious information and knowledge.
Great, thank you so much. Links for all of that will be in the description of the video. And for everyone else, thanks for watching and listening. Thanks for everyone that's in the chat. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and to help out the channel in the YouTube algorithms. Share and subscribe, and please hit the bell icon. YouTube is already getting rid of some of my subscribers and likes on my video. But I only do one video a week, so I won't be annoying you, sending you all kinds of notifications on YouTube to your phone or computer. So next Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST or 9 p.m. EST, I'm going to have Chris Matthew on from Forbidden Knowledge News talking about his most recent contact experience in the state of the world. So hope to see you guys in the chat next week too. And again, thank you guys so much. And thank you again, Dollie. I appreciate you so much for coming on my show. And remember, we're not only in a spiritual war, but a war on humanity. Stay aware, stay alert, keep love in your heart for everyone, and stay safe out there. See you guys next week.